Tonight we discuss the Luciferian codes, developed by Ken Klein, researcher. He will explain evil in our present world as well as talk about the positive and negative forces within the universe and what that all means to us. Ken Klein's interest in film production writing came after stumbling into the writings of ancient prophets. And Ken takes on life's greatest mysteries. He's a regular guest here on Coast to Coast AM. What do you mean you stumbled into the writings, Ken? How did that happen?
Oh, my gosh. So what a story that is. Oh, man. First of all, I want to thank you for having me on again, George, because
my pleasure.
It's always a lot of fun to be on with you. And last time I was on, I think it was last May or June.
Yeah, May.
We had just finished our film trilogy on the Great Pyramid, and we put on a free virtual tour on my website. And I want you to know, 20,000 people went on that tour from your show. And it was just an incredible response. We left it up there, but we've also added now, just for your audience, a primer called Prelude to the Pyramids, and you can go on my site and look at that for free and get up to speed with that last project. But I want to thank you for the opportunity to be on, and what a tremendous audience you have. They're tremendous people. We get hundreds, thousands of letters all the time responding to our shows with you, and so it's been a joy to be on with you. Thanks again for having me.
You know, Ken, this audience, they love the truth. They love mysteries. They love the unknown. They're incredible people. You know, they get involved in this economic situation we're in. They are schooled, or they're very well read. They may not all have college degrees. So what? They go out in the school of hard knocks and they get the answers. And it's a well-rounded family here. You know, when I go on speaking engagements around the country, we've got people from all walks of life there, all ages, all careers, but there is a single factor with all of them, and they just want answers. And you bring us a lot of answers, and that's why you're back all the time.
Well, I think people out there know me as the pyramid guy, because the last number of times I've been on, I've been telling people about this trilogy.
Tonight you'll be the Luciferian guy.
Well, I'm actually a code breaker. I break codes, and I'm driven by finding the hidden meaning in things, and many things are codes. Like, for example, we have a DNA code, which is what they're finding more out about all the time, and shows on DNA now all over the place. And it's that code within us that forms our body structure.
And isn't it interesting, Ken, when you break the code, whatever it is, you then get real answers? You know,
one of the codes I broke a number of years ago was on a television station, and it was seen by one Hollywood producer who I've become very good friends with. His name is Robert Donazzi, and he produced Flight Plan. He was the executive producer for Flight Plan, which starred Jodie Foster. And he's also got a new film coming out this summer called The Diplomat. And he introduced me to a guy named Aaron Plasinski, who I think you should have on your show. He helped produce Ghost Hunters, right up your alley.
Okay.
I can set that up if you want me to. And
sure,
then he also produced Ice Road Truckers and now Ice Road Loggers, which is a lot of fun. And these two fellas and I have been putting our minds together, and now they want to produce my own television series called The Truth Seeker.
Super.
Yeah, and The Truth Seeker is me, the character me, going back in time to all these places in history, all the way back to Egypt, all the way through time, even to the Civil War and even World War II, and unearthing and exhuming the true facts of history, which often we don't really get the true facts.
No, we don't.
And so we are right in the stage of pitching this to the networks. And the first episode, which will be a pilot, is to be an expedition to Mount Ararat in search of Noah's Ark, of all things.
Now, you're not going on this upcoming trip that this minister is planning, are you?
No, this is our own expedition.
Okay.
And I have been approached by a guy named Dr. Don Shockey, who's an archaeologist that's been up there 3 times. He's written a book on his relationship with the last known guy that put his hands on the ark and actually took wood from the ark. He lives in Turkey, and we are planning to go up in August. In fact, for all the listening audience, if you would like updates on the development of this expedition, which is going to be awesome because Shockey knows where it is. They haven't been looking in the right place. And because of his relationship with this guy, which was in 1991 when he was up there the last time, this guy Shockey now is 71 years old. We have to fly him halfway up in a helicopter just to get him to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, there's no way he can climb.
No, it's just too hard for him. But I've been working out. I've been doing 3 miles a day on a stair stepper, and an hour workout every day to get in shape for this thing. So if the listening audience wants to follow along with this, we send out for free a newsletter to keep them up to speed. So if they just go to my website and sign up for our email, well, then we'll keep them posted on the development of this new project.
Can you call in while you're on the expedition?
We'll work on it with you, sure.
Okay.
That'd be wonderful.
I'd love
By
to
the way,
get updates.
Tom, your producer, told me that you're considering also a trip back to Cairo at the foot of the Sphinx.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to do that this year or not, Ken, because the clock is ticking quickly for us here. But
that's for sure.
We've got lots to do. But
well, if you go, I'll go with you.
Okay,
I'll do a show over there. And
I do want to go, and I do want to do a series of shows out there. And Zahi Hawass has welcomed us as well. So we'll do it. I just don't know when.
All right. Well, let me know, and I'll go over there and do it with you.
Now, tell me about this latest work, the Luciferian.
Well, that's the second thing that we've been working on is this package called the Shadow Code Collection, which includes the Luciferian codes. Now, I was telling you about this film that these guys saw, these two producer guys, friends now, called Cracking the Code, which is an insight that I gained through my many years of study and focus. And I've developed, a kind of I like to call it Z-ray vision. I've heard of X-ray vision, which sees through matter, but Z-ray vision sees into the spiritual dimension. And over my many, many years of study and focus, I've developed a Z-ray vision. And a good example of Z-ray vision would be the apocalyptic book or Revelation. That is this Apostle John having Z-ray vision. And today we hardly can understand what he was saying. Even 2,000 years later, we don't even hardly have a clue. And biblical scholars have a hard time tracking through that wilderness. But I managed to crack into one of the codes, which was a Luciferian code, in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter. In fact, I cracked into several and broke them down, and those Luciferian codes are in this Shadow Code Collection, along with the Luciferian codes, which explains how codes are developed by a creator, not God, a creator who has splayed out in our world evil that is affecting us now. We are now suffering in this country the kind of like the culmination of a virus that's been spread over this planet, and is coming to its apex now as we're watching the world's economic system crumble. And it's part of a virus that was designed by an archangel who was Lucifer. And so this is all in my Shadow Code collection, and the way this happened to me, the way I got started in getting this focus that I'd like to be able to teach people how to develop on their own right, because the world itself, the world we live in, is actually a shadow of the spiritual world. We actually live in a shadow world. And the real world, Plato had it right, is a world of ideas and spirit. And most people have no idea of spirituality or how to have it. They basically live in a world where they just react to what's going on, but they're just reacting to a shadow world. What we need to do is get to the truth, and that's, of course, the truth seeker.
We're all after that.
And get to the real meat of the matter. So we have to learn how to see into the spiritual realm, because the spiritual realm is what affects the earth, both good and bad. And so my work in the Shadow Code collection is to help people see these codes and how they're breaking on the planet, and have been for as long as man's been here.
Now, these codes, are they similar to, like, the Bible code?
No, not at all like the Bible code.
Okay.
like viruses. Now, a virus is like, you can have a good virus, like if you put something on YouTube and it's viral and it goes out and everybody, of course, you could put something bad on YouTube.
Sure.
But a virus doesn't have a morality. It just functions in a certain way. Well,
but the word itself sounds bad.
Yes, it does, because most of the things that we attribute to viruses are things that are evil, like cancer or AIDS
other
virus,
diseases, sure.
and they run their course. They just run their course. Well, Lucifer has designed viruses and implanted them in codes and has injected them into this world, and they have an effect on many areas. They have an effect on economics. They have an effect on religions. They have an effect on politics.
Do they spread, Ken, much like a computer virus spreads? It just permeates all over the place?
Yeah, it just permeates everything until there's a destruction. Because Lucifer, at one time, was an archangel, and very brilliant, and he has done things to try to bring the end to the human race. That's what his plan is.
He was one of the chosen ones, wasn't he, at the time?
Well, he was a cherubim angel. And when you say chosen one, he was a Christed.
He was
angel.
Way up there.
He was anointed, which is the word Christ, anointed cherubim angel. And people have a hard time wrapping their minds around an archangel, let alone an angel. These are magnificent beings that are incredibly brilliant, that manage the universal orders. Now, that's often called heaven in the Bible, but actually it's more appropriately rendered heavens. And there is a heaven, but there's also heavens. And there's also heavens can be explained. The word oranios in the Bible explains the air in which we breathe and which the birds fly. That's also explained as heavens. But the angels, like Lucifer, dwell in the universe, and that's a physical dimension.
Right.
But they're spiritual creatures in a physical dimension, only they have a different acceleration or a different vibration frequency than human beings. That's why we can't see them.
Why are they out to make things so bad?
Not all of them are. There's been many wars in heaven, in the heavens, and not just in our own galaxy. There's a war in our galaxy. In fact, in my pyramid film, I don't know if you saw it, but in the second film, the second part of the trilogy, in the Great Pyramid, there's two air ducts that they call air ducts, but one goes to the south and points to the stars, and the one on the north side points to the star belt of Orion. The one to the south points to Alpha Draconis, and it's the word we get draconian from.
All right.
And Lucifer's called the Great Dragon, because that's where he launched. That's where the wars started in this galaxy, was Drago.
That's fascinating.
The star belt Drago. So the pyramid is actually a more than a tomb, and that's what Dr. Hawass would have. I may not go over there with him. I throw me in jail.
He would.
A big fight over.
Well, I hit him on a few months ago, and I wanted to get into the ET factor and everything else.
You should have called me up. That would have been a whale of a program.
You know what? I only had him on for a brief moment, and I didn't want him to hang up on me.
Yeah. Well, they protect the traditional, history.
Oh, sure, they do. And I can understand why he does. But, he's a purist at heart, and he's trying to increase tourism, and, he's trying to do his thing. Yeah,
but the pyramid is too important to protect the history that's wrong, and that's not the truth. And that's why we have to get to the truth about what everything is. I mean, we should love the truth and seek the truth and thirst after the truth. And the pyramids are an oracle that point to the stars. So anyway, back to the...
Yeah, and I want to get a better handle on this code, the Luciferian code.
Absolutely.
Okay, now, it's in a environment of spirituality, okay? It's not physical, correct?
Well, the codes are designed to have a physical manifestation.
Okay.
So they start out like DNA, has it's the chromosomes in the DNA strand, which is a molecule, are physical, but they're designed almost like a blueprint that goes into a DNA strand. So
sure.
just like a house has a blueprint that people follow to create the house, it exists in in a kind of a negative capacity first, like a photograph has a negative. Of course, they don't use film like they did in the old days.
Right.
But everything exists in a kind of a realm of an idea first, which is not physical. So everything that exists starts. Plato was right. I mean, the real world is a world of ideas. Some of the ideas are good, and some of the ideas are really evil. And so there are creations that are good, and there's some creations that are bad. And you go, well, why would God make a bad creation? And that's the part that people don't understand, and that's the part I want to get into, because it has to do with what set the angel wars off that are written about in Revelation 12, which ministers have not a clue. I mean, the average Protestant minister or any minister doesn't really understand what went down in the star region of Drago and what those angel wars were about. And if we don't understand that, we won't even understand our own existence and how we are to try to transcend our physical existence. We're all afraid of dying, but it's really the doorway back to where we belong. So, we sit here as human beings, and we don't understand what's affecting our world. People get mad at God for stuff that He didn't even do, and we don't understand the source of the evil in our world. And we have to get back to what happened in these angel wars that set off a lot of problems here on this planet.
And why did the wars even occur? Why did they start?
Well, it's a really incredible story, what happened, and I'll explain it to you as I have penetrated into the inner matrix of this whole thing. What happened was there's been more than one universe, according to the Bible even. And then now people would say, well, I'm a heretic, but in the 10th chapter of Revelation, it talks about 7 thunders. And if you look at the book of Genesis, it's basically a snapshot of the cyclical action of a universe and how it's born and how it collapses back into a star density. Mm-hmm. So everything starts in a state of matter, in a state of chaos, and then there's a thundering or a explosion. Like the scientists have it right. There's a big bang, and the stars stretch. And it says that all over the Old Testament, God stretches forth the heavens from this star density. And then it says also that He folds it up like a garment or rolls it up like a scroll. It goes back into matter again. And then it starts all over again. So God's making these universes and these 7 thunders, which is a mystery, because He creates life forms in the universe. We're not the only life form in the universe. There's many, many life forms throughout this immense universe. Our galaxy alone, just one galaxy, and there's over 1 trillion galaxies, has 100 billion stars.
Yeah, you can't count
on it. So, we can't hardly wrap our mind around the enormity of the universe, let alone, our galaxy is hard to comprehend. So life forms are created, and the universe is a messaging system where the angels travel the universe, planting life forms in galaxies for the purpose of expressing God's love and His graciousness and His glory through free will agency in the creations He makes. So the whole universe is studded with life that has free will agency, and that's one of the most important things to understand about the Almighty God is that He gives life forms the opportunity to make choice, and this is the way it is. And Lucifer was one of the archangels that worked in tandem with 6 other angel circuits, one of which was the cherubim angels, and the other in our galaxy.
And when I think of cherubs, I think of these cute little angels with little tiny wings.
Well, that's because you've looked at Renaissance paintings, and these paintings have formed a mind picture, and that's the problem with a lot of things that we have in our theology is that the people of this that just came out of the Dark Ages had these weird ideas about angels and hell and all kinds of things that are just wrong. And those are the mind pictures. I mean, how many people think of the chariot that took Elijah off the earth as the kind of chariot that Yul Brynner chased Charlton Heston with?
Exactly. It sounds more like a spaceship. Ken, we'll be back with you. We'll talk more about the Luciferian codes in a moment. As we were earlier talking about the 200th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, on the same date, birthday of Charles Darwin, evolutionist. And whether you agree with his theories or not, a remarkable scientist indeed. Back with Ken Klein as we talk about the Luciferian codes on Coast to Coast AM. Back with researcher and filmmaker Ken Klein. Ken, let's talk about these angel wars. This fascinates me.
Oh yeah, it's amazing, and you know it's biblical. It's in the book of Revelation, 12th chapter, and I'll tell you to the best of my understanding, and I think I have a better understanding than most people because I've been working on these kinds of things for over 30 years.
You've devoted your entire career to this.
Well, I started when I was 22, and I had an amazing dream that changed my life and got me on track with being interested in the spiritual dimension. And it's just gone on and on and on, and it's led me into this, you know, I wrote a book called America, Globalism, and the False Prophet, which is an exposition and exegesis, which means to pull out of the symbolism of the Bible messages. And people would say, well, you know, that's such a subjective thing, but it's not. When you see how I go about this, and it took 6 years of research to pull this together, you'll see the spiritual logic in it. And nobody's ever been able to talk about the United States in prophecy before because most people say, well, you know, the United States is not in prophecy. And we'll get more into that later because it's one of the Luciferian codes that I want to talk about. But it all started with the angel wars. And what happened was, as I was telling you, you know, these angels are powerful. I mean, they're brilliant and powerful. And there's wars. They're not a bunch of, you know, sweet little fairies flying around that look fat and have little wings with harps. It's not the way it is. They're powerful beings, and there are wars. Now, the cherubim angels are the covering angels, and you see the wings of those angels over the you know, in the Indiana Jones film over the Ark of the Covenant. Mm-hmm. Those are representations of the cherub. They're covering angels. Now, why do the angels need to cover something? And that's because there's wars. They're protectors. They're guardians. Yeah. They're watchers, and that's their function. Now, the other angel group that we see prominently are the seraphim angels, and these angels are like the historians. They're the ones that keep the books. The Bible talks about at the end, you know, all the books are open. Well, who's keeping the books? Well, seraphim angels are keeping the books. And then it says in Revelation 12, there was war in heaven, and the great dragon, Lucifer, swept away 1/3 of the angels. And you go, well, which third were they? Nobody asks, what were the angels that were swept away? I haven't heard anybody in my whole experience say, well, what was the 1/3? Yeah. Who were they? They weren't the cherubim, and they weren't the seraphim.
Was it a different type?
Because those two angels are mentioned throughout the Bible as being, you know, sent to help humans. There was 1/3 of them that were swept away. Well, which ones were they? And it's hidden in the Bible. But if you understand how to break codes, you'll know where to find them. And they're in the book of Ezekiel 1 and 10, and they're talked about as the wheels within the wheels. And everybody says, you know, in the Christian world, well, those are UFOs. You know, they're evil. No, these are called the Ophans. Ophanim is the plural of Ophans, the wheel angels. And the wheel angels are referred to in a plural way in the book of Genesis as Elohim. So Elohim is a plural of the Most High God, Eloah, and Elohim, if you follow through all of the places where you see the word Elohim in the Old Testament, it's a reference to gods or angels. So when it says, God said, let us make man in our image, the word for God there is Elohim. So it's actually, when people say, well, we're made in the image of God, I said, no, we're not. We're made in the image of Elohim, and Elohim is a reference to angels. We're made in the image of angels. And those angels were the Ophanim, and they were the creator angels. And the creator angels were stewarded over by an office called the Morning Star Office. And what's interesting about that, and this is where the Mormon people have it wrong, is they say, well, you know, the Morning Star Office is mentioned as Jesus. And it's true, it is. But also the name Lucifer means morning star. So he was also in the Morning Star Office. So that's why the Mormons think they were brothers. They weren't brothers. This is talking about an office. And here's what went down, George.
All right.
When life forms were being spirited in our solar system by the Heavenly Father, the Ophanim were a group of Ophanim. 144,000 Ophanim went with him to set up life forms on Earth. Okay, that's what happened in this galaxy. keeping in mind that they plant life all over the place, all over the universe. And so keeping in mind also that, Genesis is a snapshot of the cycles of universal creations. We are now currently in the 8th universe, and the universe, it lasts for an eternity, and that's what eternity means. The lifespan of a universe is called an eternity, and it's represented by a candle in the book of Revelation 1 and 2 with the candles that Christ walks
let's get back to the war show, Ken.
Yeah, I am.
All right.
But I just need to keep it in the context. So anyway, what happened in our galaxy is that that morning star office was offered to Lucifer, who was a cherubim, and he moved over to shepherd over the Ophanim. So he moved from a cherubimic mind circuitry to the morning star office, which was over the Ophanim creators. And this would be like Rehnquist taking a job as the head of the Senate. Like he thinks differently. He thinks legally. The Senate does other things. Mm-hmm. The different mind circuits in those organs of the government. This is similar, metaphorically speaking, of how Lucifer, the cherubim archangel, moved over to the archangelship in the morning star office over the Ophanim. And that's where the problem started. So it says of him that he was perfect in all of his ways, and this is in the prophet Ezekiel, until iniquity was found in him, which means just to be out of synchronization with the will of God. So he got out of sync or out of alignment, and he took the opportunity when he was over the creators to sift their software, so to speak, and steal their creator codes. So Lucifer gained the ability to create creation codes, because the cherubim didn't have that ability. They were just guardians. But now he becomes a creator, or has the capacity to create. And what happened was he started creating codes that were not in the ordained will of God. And on earth, what took place was the creation of the dinosaurs. Those are twisted creation signals that manifested on the earth in these very strange creatures. It never was God's intention for there to be dinosaurs, but that's what happened on the earth. When that took place, the 144,000 that were spiriting creation realized what took place here, and they went to war against their brother Ophanim that were still left under the charge of Lucifer. At that point, the war took place, and Lucifer sped off to Drago, and there, hunkered down and to fight the war. Well, at that point, the seraphim under the lordship of the archangel Michael was called in to stop the war.
Now, is this all these things that are going on? Is that in the physical realm, or is it in a? It's in the universe.
The universe is a physical realm, but these creatures are at a different vibe than humans. We're at a very slower, acceleration than they are. They're higher accelerations. But it's in the physical universe. It's not in heaven in the sense where God is. This is the expanse that's talked about, where God separates the waters above, which is the energies of love in the first domain where Almighty God dwells, and then the waters below, which is the energies on earth, and then in between is the universe.
Well, while this is all going on, Ken, where's the Creator? How come it is not stepping in and trying to solve this?
This is what happens. The Creator steps in, the Father steps in, the personification of the Most High God is the Heavenly Father,
right?
And the court, called the Great White Throne Court, steps in. These are the 7 spirits of God mentioned in Revelation 1 and 2, and this is like the Supreme Court of the universe steps in and makes a judgment on Lucifer. But he's creating codes. He's creating things still.
Well, what I assume they don't want him to.
Well, no, but he's still, all the angels have free will, just like we do.
But why don't they stop him?
Well, he's got free will to do stuff, and so he's still creating. So he is judged by the Supreme Court, and his judgment is that he has to evacuate his angel body, and so he becomes demonic power, and all the angels that were under his charge follow him and are cast into the earth air. So he's called the prince of the power of the air. It's biblical. And so in that dimension, he's creating all kinds of maladies, like cancer are all codes that are satanic codes. And so he still has the power to create, and he still has that authority to create. And he's doing that. And some of the things he creates are explained in the book of Revelation, and one of them is called Mystery Babylon, Mother of Harlots, Abominations of the Earth. That's a satanic Luciferian code. I made a film on this.
Well, does he produce any codes that benefit mankind?
No, everything
is evil.
Yeah, because mankind is he hates mankind because mankind is going to sit in an appellate court judgment for his the final determination on him. So while all this is going on, he launches an appeal before the great what we call the Holy Commission, which is the seven spirits of God, and that appeal will be heard. But, you know, I mean, how many appeals really go through on the earth? I mean, look at O.J. Simpson. He's launched an appeal the minute he was found guilty and put in jail. He launched an appeal through his attorneys. Well, same thing. Lucifer has launched an appeal before the seven spirits of God, and that appellate court will convene, and that will be the great white throne judgment where the witnesses will stand against him and judge him. And the witnesses are humans that pass the test of living in this life and overcoming their humanness. So the humans on earth are the witnesses, and right now the witnesses are being selected, and that's who we are. We're the witnesses against Lucifer. But on earth, he's doing everything he can to destroy us. And one of the things he does is he creates counterfeits in religious constructions, and that's called Mystery Babylon, Mother of Harlots, Abominations of the Earth. So religious confusion is a code, and I explain that code in The Shadow of Babylon. It's part of my Shadow Code collection. The other thing I explain, and by the way, there's more to the Luciferian codes that I'm not going to have a chance to get into all of it tonight, but it's in that 4-part CD series that's 4 hours long. But the other code I wanted to talk about is a prominent code in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, which talks about the beasts. And this always fascinated me in my studies, and I cracked the code on the second beast, which nobody ever has done before.
Now, the beast being the Antichrist?
No, that's the confusion. The beast that's mentioned there in Revelation 13 comes up out of the sea, and it says it has 7 heads and 10 horns, and it explains the heads that 5 of them had fallen, and one is about to come, and out of the 7th will come an 8th. And I explain that in my book, America Globalism and the False Prophet, because this virus, which was poured out in the air, has afflicted the human race for thousands of years. And the beast is a system that began with the Pharaonic era, 3000 BC, and then progressed to Assyria, and then Babylon, and then Medo-Persia, and then Greece. And the 6th one was Rome. These are imperial heads of this beast system, which is a virus and a code that I cracked into years ago and began to get the meaning of it, because these symbolisms that we see in Revelation are actually codes that represent that are viral.
Now, can you explain also, though, how you cracked into these?
Well, early in my life, when I was about 22, getting ready to go to play for the Houston Oilers, I woke up the morning I was leaving, and I had a dream, and I saw this woman in the dream, and she was about 50, and she said, you've been in the hospital for 10 days, and then the dream faded, but it was so crystal clear, it blew my mind. Well, I forgot about it, and then 4 months later, I was in a hospital, and the same woman that I saw in the dream was there to take care of me, and she's somebody I came to know. She was like a surrogate mom. But I somehow, entered into some kind of knowledge of the future, and I was mystified, and I got on that track, and then this was the first question you asked me: how did you stumble into the prophets? So I began to see that there's something about prophecy. There's a way to get into prophecy. I didn't know how to do it, and it took years of study. Maybe not until 1983. Did I develop with enough knowledge to begin to even take on cracking a code in Revelation. It took me probably, I'm going to say, from 1973 to 1983, 10 years of research just in biblical studies to have the matrix of knowledge, even to begin to take on the magnitude of cracking a code that had nobody had ever cracked it in human history, and it took me 6 years of studying history and researching, and I finally broke through. It took 6 years, because I was able to concentrate my energy and my focus of thought for so long that it finally came through to me, and I began to understand what this second beast was all about. But the unwrapping of that second beast, which is called the false prophet in the Bible, came as I got the right interpretation of the first beast, which I'm telling you about right now, that had the 7 heads and the 10 horns, and the 7th head on that beast was the British Empire, which is the worst empire in the history of the world. And then out of that 7th empire came the 8th head, which is clearly the United Nations. So just as history's unfolded itself, these imperial heads have progressed and developed over a period of time. So this is a satanic code, a virus that's been poured out on the earth and has been unfolding now for 5,000 years. Most people can't see it because we're so spiritually bankrupt that we don't have the objectivity to see something like this. But I've written about it in the Shadow Code collection, and it's incredible. And the second beast, which comes up out of the earth, is a really important revelation, and it's important to understand it because it involves our country and England. And this is something that we don't want to look at. It's too hard to deal with, but it's the truth. And this second beast has 2 horns, and it looks like a lamb and speaks like a dragon. And a lamb in the Bible is a representation of Christ, but it has an external appearance of Christ, but internally it's violent and evil. And so it has this Christ-like appearance to it. And there's 2 horns that come out of it. And horns are representations of kings or kingdoms. So this second beast is also a system of 2 kings that have amazing power, and those powers are the capacity to call down fire from heaven. Now, see, Z-ray vision can take a look at a symbolism that is, at first face value, has only 2 dimensions, but Z-ray vision can give you depth. And this thing begins to unfold like the way a compaction of knowledge would be if you're transmitting it over the internet. So it's unfolded to me. So this second beast has the power to call down fire from heaven. Now, heaven, most people think in the Christian world, this is from God. It's not. It's from the heavens or the air, and this is clearly world military high technological capability. Fire from heaven.
Sure.
And if you're going to control the world and bring it into a global system, you have to have a big stick to control the nations. So this 2-horned beast, these 2 empires or kings, have the power to control a military high ground, high tech. And we've watched this unfold for the last 100 years in, airplanes and rockets and missiles and so forth.
Now, this entity called Lucifer, does it still exist?
Yeah, Lucifer now is called Satan, or the opposing force. And he dwells in our atmosphere, and so these, he is the one that has brought about all these things through affecting peoples of the world. They don't even know that they're puppets of this, virus. They're like trapped by it. They have no idea that they're being used by it. But the second thing that this virus produces is an image of that first beast, which is a system. And that image has, and it doesn't say Zoe life. It has spirit or pneuma life. It's spiritual life. And the whole world worships this. Well, this is clearly a television and computer screens that affect the whole world. And the whole world worships it or bows down to it and succumbs to it. And so this is a way of a messaging system to all the inhabitants of the earth to get them to function the same way.
Ken, we're coming up to the top of the hour. Give me your websites, would you?
Yeah, my website is Ken Klein, KenKlein TV.com, or KenKleinProductions.net. You can go to either one, or you can Google me at Ken Klein, Klein is the way you spell my name, and it'll take you right to my website. Just click on it, or you can find it through the Coast to Coast.
We've got your link set up, Ken Klein. We'll be back in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. If you need to email me, that's George at coasttocoastam.com as well. Very simple to do. Well, let me tell you, if there's evil in this universe, on this planet specifically, well, the one world government folks are probably in high gear with it. We'll be back in a moment with Ken Klein on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. We're with Ken Klein. Ken, what would have happened had this angelic war never occurred?
Well, that's hard to speculate on, but we wouldn't have a problem on Earth with humans in the same condition that we're in. I mean, this is all covered in my Luciferian codes, but we wouldn't have the same problem with death that we have. We wouldn't have the same problem with control systems. There'd be more freedom. There'd be greater freedom of choice. We wouldn't have limited choices. This war changed everything on this planet. And, there has been a process where the spiritual realm is trying to rescue us from the predicament we're in. And all of these things, these maladies that are coming upon us in the confusion in economics that I'm hearing on your show through the commercials, and the political world is all infected with this virus, and the religious world is infected with the virus. The whole world is under a curse. And it's from this turning the world over to this power of darkness that's infecting all of these systems. And it's been unfolding for thousands of years, and we're coming to a conclusion. And this, which I was speaking of before, this code called the false prophet, which has these three power systems, ends up with a power system called the mark of the beast, which is the mark of the system, or 666, which is a world economic system that doesn't function by gold or silver or currency. It's a whole new system based upon a mark, a computer mark.
And they're talking about the possibility of a whole new system right now.
Well, the whole United States, the whole world is in a twerk right now, because we're coming to the conclusion of the virus that's going to play out in a world control system that totally limits our freedom and choices and takes away the universal law of free will agency. Through an economic system that nobody's going to be able to escape. And the way it's being brought upon us now is the destruction of world fiat currencies, where every country is now printing more and more money or creating it electronically, which is monetary inflation. And monetary inflation is different than price inflation. And when they talk about inflation on the radio, they don't differentiate. So they say, well, inflation's going to fall by 4%. I'm going, are you crazy? Talk about the difference between the two types of inflation. There's monetary inflation, which is an increasing of the money supply. And there's price inflation, which is the increasing of the cost of goods. Well, right now we're in a deflationary cost of goods because people are going out of business. And people are trying to find markets where they cut their price on stuff. So right now there's a price deflation, but there's a monetary inflation. Well, pretty soon there's going to be more money chasing fewer goods, and that's going to change the whole issue of price. And it's going to go from deflation to inflation real fast. And so that's going to destroy all the world's currencies, and it's going to throw the world into a global depression. There's no getting away from it now.
If we're not in it already.
Well, we're in a depression already, but it's going to be very serious, very, very serious, and it's going to be global. And how long will the people endure the loss of their lifestyle until they're willing to take a new monetary system, which will be the mark of the beast? And that's the third system that this false prophet or these two kings put in place to control the world.
What should we look for, Ken? I mean, are we going to see a monetary system that is spelled out as 666? It won't be that obvious to us, will it?
The 666 system has been after the Bletchley Park, when they conquered Hitler's Enigma code. They built computers and phased in the Universal Product Code. And the Universal Product Code is a binary system that actually functions on 3 sixes. It's in my book. It's in my film. Everybody should get this, because this is what's being foisted on us. It's been coming in for the last 50 years, and we haven't noticed it or paid attention. But I broke down the code on that UPC code, and it's run by 2 different types of characters. They're data characters, which are the small bars, and 3 large bars or longer bars that are trigger characters that control the computer's access to the data, and that data contains the product ID number and the product itself, the manufacturer's number and the product ID number. And they're going to take that now with the advancement of radio frequency identification. They make a chip that transmits the barcodes now, and everybody in the world will have to have a barcoded identity. That now that no more driver's licenses, no more passports, it'll be hailed as the greatest achievement to conquer all of the world's problems. It'll eliminate ID theft. It'll eliminate counterfeiting. It'll eliminate the sex slave trade. It'll eliminate illegal immigration. It'll eliminate all the tax evaders. It'll be hailed as the greatest moral thing ever to hit the earth, but it's evil, and it's called the mark of the beast, or the mark of the system that's been rolling out for 5,000 years, and this is the end game. We're in the end game now, and the world doesn't even know what's coming, but it's right upon us, and this will be what is phased in after people come to the place where they cannot tolerate the depression anymore. They'll accept the mark of the beast, or the mark of the system, and it'll look good. It'll look moral. It'll look like the right thing because it'll eliminate so many problems, but actually it takes away your freedom, and that's why it's evil, and it's why it's Antichrist, and why it's satanic, and why it's a Luciferian code.
By that time, Ken, a lot of people will give up their freedom just to be better off, won't they?
Just to eat and to be able to shop and have shelter.
Yes.
And this is what's coming, and this is what's upon us now, and this is why all these moves by the politicians are futile. They'll throw as much money as they can at this thing, but it's just going to destroy the world economic system, and it's going to bring. And we may have a small, reprieve, but the finalization of this will be the end of money as we know it.
Sooner than later?
Well, I don't like predicting the dates, but I don't think it's very far off. I mean, all you have to do is watch the destruction of the world economic system, and you can kind of calculate it on the basis of people's pain threshold, how long they'll put up with being in the depression. I think the Americans, who are so superficial and so unspiritual, will be the first people to take the mark. Asian
stock markets are down already. They don't think that this stimulus package is going to help our economy, that we're going to get out of it. They, down 3% already, just overnight. Well, no confidence here, Ken.
The world politicians do not understand the depth of this problem. It's not just a credit crisis. There's these derivatives that are just toxic, that are trillions and trillions of dollars of bad business.
Yep.
That has
horrible business.
Yeah, and so
if we did that, we would have been fired from whatever jobs we might have had.
But the thing of it is, if you go back and study banking, all the way back to the 1600s when the Bank of England was set up, and they started working with fractional reserves of gold and they issued currencies. The bankers are geniuses at manipulation and usury. And now, if you can stop and think about this, just use your mind here, and I'm not saying you. I mean, everybody think.
I understand.
If the Pentagon has the greatest computers in the world to run all kinds of scenarios for war games,
right?
Don't you think that the bankers, that the greatest banking family in the world is the Rothschilds? They're worth $500 trillion. I mean, they're the most powerful people on the planet. Don't you think they would have even greater computer systems than the Pentagon to run their scenarios for how the currency system would work and what would fall out?
Yes.
I believe this is all a plan to destroy the world's economic system, to bring on a total control system that they would be in charge of. So the bankers will be the controllers.
Well, they won't even be called bankers then. They'll be something else. Well, because the banks will probably all collapse under this scheme.
And it's all coming in under the guise of humanitarianism, which is a counterfeit of the love of God. There's nothing wrong with being a humanitarian, but so much of politics is run with that ethic and not a spiritual reality that, the world is taken in by it. And so we have these people pushing all these buttons to bring about absolute control of the planet economically. And this has been coming on now for hundreds of years, and we haven't seen it. But principally, the Bank of England is the model or the template for all world banking systems, including the Federal Reserve, which was set up by British spies that came into the United States that set up the Federal Reserve. Paul Warburg was a British agent, and he set up at Jekyll Island, strange name, the whole concept for the Federal Reserve Act that was passed in 1913 when Woodrow Wilson refused to, veto it. And he was a stooge of Mendel House, who was a British spy, and they set up the banking system in the United States, which is not it's not federal, it's not a reserve, it's a corporation owned by private banking houses all over the world. So this whole economic thing that's coming over the world is, I think, been contrived and a setup to break down world fiat currencies and set up an ultimate banking system based upon a mark UPC code with RFID, and that will be the ultimate system. And it's here already. Technology's here. It's just going to take this crisis to push people over the edge to take that mark, without which it says in the Bible nobody can buy or sell. It's a Luciferian code. It's been poured out on the world and has been folding out now for thousands of years, and we're coming to the apex of it in our lifetime.
And it will be given to people, but I think people by that time will be willing to take it. So if it, let's say it was offered to us today, I don't think the majority of Americans, for example, or Canadians, people listening to this program, would take anything like that. But they could in another year or two if things get worse, don't you?
Well, this is the reason I'm on this show, is to vaccinate people. To make you aware that this is a Luciferian code. It's designed to destroy the human race and to destroy freedom of choice, and it has been coming on for a long time. And if we can see it coming, we can do the things that can help us buy some time. And in my Shadow Code collection, I have a really amazing 2 hours lecture on. It's called When Greed Turns to Fear, and everybody should get that. It goes out with everything that I sell. It's free, and it's 2 hours on how to defend yourself from this thing and to prepare and buy yourself some time so that you can make the adjustments you need to make to escape this.
Because, Ken, and we'll take some calls with you in just a second. They're lining up to talk with you. If everything fails with, let's say, the stimulus program, and I hope it succeeds, but, I'm not too hopeful this is going to get us out of this dilemma. Then they have to turn to something totally different and new. And that's where this comes in, doesn't it?
Well, just remember, it's not just an American problem. It's worldwide.
It is worldwide.
We saw Iceland go under, or was it Norway?
Iceland.
They went bankrupt.
The government of Iceland, its government was tossed out by the people. They just got fed up. They blamed the financial mess. They said, get out of here.
This is a worldwide problem. It's not just an American problem. It's global. And it's a race to see who can devalue their currency fastest. So it's a global currency problem, a global credit problem. And just because, America's the engine of the world doesn't mean the rest of the world, is outside of what's going on.
But the engine's sputtering.
The engine is I kind of like look at it as a heart patient taking nitroglycerin, that heart's going to go pretty soon, and nitroglycerin is just keeping the jolt alive for a little bit longer. But we're headed into probably a 20 to 25-year depression. Let's go to Rick in Manhattan, Kansas, first-time caller. Go ahead, Rick.
Yes, I'd like a question towards Mr. Klein there. I heard that you were pretty good on symbolism, and I got a Celtic sun symbol painted on my fence. It's also the balance symbol. Now, my sister, she's pretty big on religion, and she thinks that it has something to do with evil or Satan. But I've got animals like cats and dogs and, stuff like that. They go and lay down on the ground in front of this thing.
What? I didn't hear what it was. I'm sorry.
Celtic sun symbol, the balance symbol. And it's got intricate knotwork painted in it, and, it's a circle with a simplicity cross. And I got animals, stray animals and, regular animals and raccoons and stuff. They'll come in the yard and they'll lay down on the ground in front of this thing. It's almost like they're drawing energy from it.
All right, a Celtic sun symbol, Ken.
And it's a balance? It's kind of like a balance, like a scale?
It's a four-pointed design, and in Celtic art, four-pointed design is automatically a symbol of balance. But it's also the Celtic sun symbol.
I'm sorry. I'd have to really, meditate on that and zero in on it to be able to help you. I really can't comment on it. I'm sorry.
How did it get there, Rick?
I painted it there.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I painted it there. It was almost like, I felt something was holding my arm and pulling it along, and helping me paint. And so it's almost like I was possessed to paint this thing. And I saw a vision of it, and I drew it out, and I painted it.
Okay. All right. Also, the one thing, just to help you, Rick, if you can, you'll do a Google search on Celtic symbols. You'll get some explanations on what some of those things may be. In the codes, Ken, when you were starting to decipher things, did you come across symbols and things like that?
The codes that I focused on, that I kind of radiated, with my mind energy, were codes in the book of Revelation, because they were so mysterious to me, and they're so beyond anything I had ever read before. And not only in Revelation, but in the old prophets. Zechariah was another one, and Ezekiel and Daniel had these strange things that they saw, and I was just fascinated by them, and those are the things I focused on. Now, when I went to Egypt, there's an interesting papyrus in Egypt. That's go into any papyrus shop, George, if you're over there, and you'll see this papyrus of this god that has the head of an ibis and the body of a man. And he's standing in front of a scale. And I always used to think that there was something evil about it because it was so strange looking. But it turns out that this strange image was the god Thoth, Thoth, that Aleister Crowley wrote about, and they're into tarot cards. And I, had a funny feeling about it because I had seen all these things. But as I studied it in the Egyptian mythology, it turns out that this was the moon god, and the moon god was called such because he invented the lunar calendar, and there was nothing evil about it at all. And he was a righteous one that was weighing the hearts of humans. That if a feather was lighter or outweighed the heart, then the heart was good. It was a good heart. And it's talking about a standard of judgment that was good. It turns out that this Thoth was actually Enoch of the Bible. And this is in our trilogy. So the things that I focus on, the things that I radiate on, are mostly biblical things, but I have studied some of the symbolism and mythologies of Egypt, and I find them very fascinating. I have a lot to say about that, but I don't think this show is for that.
Ken, as you look toward, as everybody does, 2012 and the Mayan calendar, it's kind of ironic that a lot of these things are happening as we get close to that date. Does that have anything to do with any of this?
We're going to do a show. I'm going to go down into the jungles with my two producer guys, and we're going to do a show on the Mayan calendar. And a lot of people, connect this with this, Planet X and all of that stuff. I don't think that's real. I think that's a farce. But there's something to the Mayan calendar, and we're going to do something on that. And I think it's interesting that the timing of it is very.
That is strange.
It seems to be something to it, but we're not going to talk about that till we do that show.
Okay, I don't blame you. Ken's websites, by the way, are linked up at coasttocoastam.com right now. We're talking about his latest work, a special CD series called The Luciferian Codes, Piercing the Darkness, where he talks about the positive and negative forces within the universe. And I'll tell you one thing, Ken, when we come back, I want to get your take on whether you believe there is extraterrestrial life out there, and if these same codes apply to them, if they exist. Back in a moment, continue to take your calls as well with our guest, Ken Klein, on Coast to Coast AM. Fascinating information with Ken Klein tonight. We're going to continue to chat with him and take your phone calls, and then full phone calls with Ken Klein next hour as well. This weekend, Valentine's weekend, I will be at the Conscious Life Expo here in the Los Angeles area. They've got 20 tickets left for a banquet dinner that we're having Saturday night. If you're interested in that, it is Valentine's Day night. Tonight will be the last night that their website will function for this event. Then they will just take walk-ins, because I think they've been overloaded. So you can go to consciouslifeexpo.com, click my picture there. There's a workshop and a meet and greet and the special event dinner over the Saturday and Sunday. The dinner is on Saturday, but the other event, the special workshop, in which John Hogue will be on, and Daniel Brinkley, and Sean David Morton and David Wilcock. They will be panelists on a 2012 Sunday conference that I will host. So just go to consciouslifeexpo.com. Glenn, I guess for me, Ken, to go to the next question with you, do you believe in extraterrestrial life in this universe beyond us?
Oh, of course. I mean, the extraterrestrials are the angelic messengers that worked with Enoch to help construct the Great Pyramid. Clearly, he walked with the Elohim or the gods. And there are ships. Elijah was taken in a ship. Enoch was taken in a ship. The star that was over Bethlehem was a ship.
Ezekiel was in one.
But there's also evil ships. There's also forces in the air that are demonic that also deploy robotics that we call the Greys and all that stuff. Those are robots of the demons that collect information, and the information they collect, remember there's 666 billion demonic powers under the lordship of Lucifer or Satan. And there's a scripture in the Bible that's really interesting. It says, let no corrupt communication come out of your mouth. Why? We're supposed to be moral people? No, that's not the point. It's spiritual, because your voice patterns and your words are collected by the demonic forces, and they can concoct codes and strategies that can war against you. And so you don't want to put anything in the air that can be intercepted by these forces. So there's good angelic forces, there's evil, there's both. And so we have to know that we live in a spiritual reality, but most of us, like I said before, basically react to the shadow world. We're not conscious of the spiritual world. We don't live like that. And all of these things are coming upon us, and pretty much the world is going to be fall into deep, deep darkness.
Are they confronted with these Luciferian codes as well, or not?
Are who?
The ETs.
When you say they're confronted, they are harmonically, sympathetically aligned with them.
That's what I thought. Okay.
They bring them about through the interplay of wars and contentions and religious cults. All of these things are manipulated without people knowing it. Like the Bilderbergers, for example, these brilliant people, they don't realize that they're being manipulated by the forces of darkness. They're caught up in the code, and they have no idea that they're bringing about these viruses to their conclusion. And so the whole world is in darkness, spiritual darkness. They have no idea, because these Luciferian codes have blinded the minds of men.
All right, back to the phones we go. Ray in Farmdale, Ohio. You're on east of the Rockies. Hey, Ray.
Yeah, good morning, George and Ken. First-time caller, and I have a few things here I want to bring up.
Good to have you with us. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Out of the Old Farmer's Almanac on the month of June, it's the Sky Watch. Venus reaches its greatest elongation, appears 46 degrees to the right of the rising sun on the pre-dawn on the sky of the 5th. I was born 1 year and 4 days apart from you, George. And I just thought you might want to hear that. But my main reason is calling about Nostradamus and the Mayan calendar and the Aztecs and stuff like that. And I've been studying that here for a while. And everybody thinks that is about what happened in the future. I think that's what about happening during the Inquisition. And Nostradamus was right in what was happening during his time period, the French Revolution, and beyond that. That was the greatest transfer of wealth this world had ever seen. The Spanish come to South America, Central America, and America, and killed more Indians and took more wealth than any time in history. That's what the Mayan calendar tells you. Everybody is looking too far out, I think.
Fascinating. Want to react to that, Kenny?
No, I don't have nothing to say about it. It's interesting.
Okay, next up. Thanks for that call, Ray. Let's go to Heather in Munster, Indiana on our wildcard line. Heather, go ahead.
Yes, I want to know what humans as individuals can do to guard themselves against this Luciferian code. One of the things I was thinking is like flower essences or animal essences that you take internally for your energy levels. They help your vibrational level to actually increase.
Good question, Ken. What can we do as individuals to fight these codes, as you've said, these viruses?
Well, outside of us, in the world outside of us, there's nothing you can do. They're going to run their course. They're just going to come to a conclusion. Now, you can hinder them from affecting you to a degree. All you can do is be free of them yourself, but you're not going to stop. There's no. The Scripture says, "Who can go to war with the beast?" You can't go to war with it and defeat it. It's just going to play out. It's like a like a big ship trying to turn in the sea. You can't turn it or stop it. It's just it doesn't matter if it would have been Obama or McCain. This country's heading to the rocks. It's just how fast we get there. So there's no stopping the outside world. It's going to come to a conclusion, but you can hinder its effect on you. And the issue for all of us is transcending our humanness, because our bodies are wired to the material world in which we live. So we have to develop our inner circuitry. We have to expand our consciousness, and we have to grow in how we think about God and ourselves. And so that's the inner self that has to grow. And the inner self is fed by the truth. You know the truth, and it sets you free. It sets you free from what? From the external world. So we have to be truth seekers. And while the Bible is explained as the Word of God, it has been tampered with through many translations, and it's been watered down. So even the Bible needs to be watered or oiled, because it's become rusty. And so many of the things that I'm talking about can be found through one of my mentors, who is called a manifester, and you can find him on my website and get a hold of him and his teachings. And I would recommend that people hook up with him, and we have a lot of his stuff on my site that you can find, but we need to get to the truth of everything. And the Luciferian codes is really important for people to get into their system, because it will expand the vanishing points. That we all have vanishing points in our minds. We can only see so far, and our spiritual logic is so flawed, and our human logic functions on so much presumption that we need an enlightenment to happen on the inside of us. So we need to eat angel food. We need to eat the food that will increase our mind circuitries and help us transcend out of our physical bodies.
Would that be monatomic gold?
People are rushing headlong into gold. I mean, the physical gold, because it's real money, but that will only last for a short time, because once this whole new system, the mark of the beast system, is set in, even that won't even work. So we're in a pretty precarious situation with the way the world's going.
Let's go to Wichita, Kansas. William's with us, and William, beginning next week, we'll be on News Radio 1330 KNSS. You can get us there. Go ahead,
right,
William.
I will look out for that. Okay. George, I want to make one quick comment and two questions to your guest. I had experienced some supernatural events, which is mystifying, and this spirit warned me not to expose him on your show. So I'll save that for a Friday.
Save it for a Friday.
Yeah. Second is, the two questions I have for your guest is, was he aware that what he's talking about, as far as like the wars in heaven and about Lucifer, almost mimics that of the Galactic Federation? And two, was he aware that we are corporate subjects to the corporate United States, in which England owns, since the hostile takeover in 1933?
I'll let you pick up the second question first, Ken.
Well, when I talked about the code earlier called the false prophet, and I talked about the two horns on that system that represented kings, those kings on that symbolism is England and the United States. It's those two kings that have created this relationship that is pushing the world towards its conclusion. You know, the Bank of England and the whole British Empire was a powerful entity that tried to keep the United States from even being formed. But we broke away for a short time, but we were recaptured through our money system. And so basically our banking system is British. And so these two entities have formed so much relationship and covenants and contracts, and that they are actually one system that's bringing the world to this conclusion. So I'm in agreement with him.
His other question, of course, is he talked about the Galactic Federation, which, of course, we see in Star Trek quite a bit. It is interesting that it seems that this celestial event of angels, for example, had a hierarchy, didn't it?
Well, yeah, the angels are arranged in a hierarchy. They are. There's angels over, 1 million angels. There's angels over 100,000. There's angels over 10. There's a hierarchical structure, and at the top of the structure is an archangel. So yes, I'm not that familiar with the Galactic Federation because I'm not a Trekkie, but there is definitely a hierarchy, and there is also a Supreme Court of the universal construction. I'm not talking about heaven itself. I'm talking about the heavens of the universe. There is a federation of 7 angel circuitries that sit over the universe and make determinations and judgments in our universe and in our galaxy too. And it was that federation of 7 angel groups chaired by archangels that judged Lucifer and cast him out of his archangelship or morning star office and cast him to the earth. And the earth is a prison. The planet Earth is a prison planet. It's a level of hell that we're in. This isn't hell itself. It's a level of it. It's Tartaru, and we are bound here in very small mind circuitries and tremendous emotional chains. So we're not only in prison, we're chained up. And that's why we needed a Messiah. That's why Christ came in the person of Jesus. He is the Savior. He is the one that came to salvage us and give us a hope and a destiny. So, this planet is a prison planet. And the warden is Lucifer. And he's the one that inflicts all the diseases and the damages upon us through, viruses of all kinds.
All right, next up, Vancouver, Canada, caller John on the international line. John, good morning.
Good morning. Brilliant show, gentlemen. I know that you haven't read the book you're entry yet there, George, but you should get on it.
I'm in chapter 15.
I think it has a lot of correlations, and I had the privilege of spending about 10 days with David Icke, and I think between this gentleman, Ken, and David Icke, you pretty well, and maybe a little bit of your entry, you got most of the bases covered. I just wanted to ask him about the crossing of the galactic meridian or equator and wormwood, and get his thoughts also on the crop designs. And
okay,
thank him very much for endeavoring to educate so many people with his efforts, and yourself, George, for hosting, because we all need this galactic wake-up call, because we're really heading down the wrong road, and we got to get all those sleeping idiots out of Washington and the Federal Reserve to correct the global picture.
And by the way, you got to come and see me in Vancouver on Feb 28.
I'm trying to think how I can arrange to meet you directly.
Great, we'll do that. Okay.
But I thank you for your efforts, and it's been a wonderful show.
Ken, Book of Revelation talks about wormwood. What do you think that is?
Well, I think the wormwood that we're experiencing is this. You know what wormwood is? It's wood that's been eaten by worms. And so the whole fabric of this life is being eaten by these viruses. They're just like eating through all the fabric of every system, every nation, and it is this terrible these terrible viruses that are just destroying the fabric of life here on this planet. I don't know what he's talking about, the galactic crossing. I'm sorry, I just don't. Maybe you can help me understand that, but I've never heard a galactic crossing before.
Well, once again, I think reference to Star Trek and in just what is happening in the universe throughout, and you touched on that a little bit in the first hour when you talked about their war within the universe, their war in space. Well, you want to mention that again? Just how did they end up having a war on other planetary systems?
Well, this gets into Ezekiel 36, 37, and 38 that deals with Gog and Magog. And, of course, Hal Lindsey believes that's Russia and the land of Gog is Russia, and I don't agree. I believe that was set up before the universal constructions. There were inner alpha orders where entities were created that could create, and one of them was Gog. And he in very much the same way Lucifer went on his own to try to be equal with God, started creating, and his creative power was never taken away. So from universe to universe, there's this negative spirit power, creative power in the universal constructions, and so that's why there's wars. Lucifer fell under the spirit of Gog, and that's why he got perverted and twisted. But he at one time was a brilliant angel that did mighty exploits in the universe where he first appeared, which was third or fourth universe. And people are going to say, well, how do you know all this stuff? And I you know what? I'm going to tell you that you have to have this man on that I'm telling you about called a manifester, who is represented by Dr. Jerry Lee. And it's unbelievable what this man has experienced and learned from messengers or angels. And if you want to have him on, I'll hook you up with him. But when it comes to the crop circles, this man's a genius in understanding what the meaning of these things are, and it's very fascinating and important. So as far as, the universal constructions, we do find in the prophet Isaiah in the 51st chapter, have not I called you that I might plant the heavens, not heaven, the heavens. That means that the human race is destined to go into space and be involved with creating life forms in other galaxies. So it's pretty exciting destiny for us, but we're headed towards dark times before that happens.
But, once that does happen, there is a cleansing. There is something fresh and new afterwards, isn't there?
Yes, that's for sure. Because each we know the cycles of life explain some of the wisdom of God, and that there's a winter. We're going through a dark time now, winter. And then will come spring, a new life, and then summer, and then the fall, and then the cycle starts over again. So God, and even the universe is cyclical in the way it expands and contracts. It expands and stretches and goes back like a scroll and goes back to a compaction. All of life is cyclical. All of existence is cyclical. So yes, there's going to be a dark time, but we're going to come out of it, and we're going to be better for it. So.
As long as we don't have chips in our bodies when that happens.
Well, that's gonna be a big line in the sand, that we can't afford to cross. We will lose our witness.
I'm not going to do it. You're not.
No, and you know what? You have to be ready to die. Your life is on the line for that. I mean, are you going to be on God's side or not? And those that take that are followers of the beast system, which is a concoction of a Luciferian code. You're following Lucifer when you do that.
And when you say get ready to die, I mean, do you think it's going to come down to that? Either we get chipped or they're going to do us in?
I don't know. I just think you have to be prepared that could happen. I mean, you talked about the population being reduced to 500 million.
That's what they want.
Well, it could be that's the dividing line. You take the chip, or we're going to have to recycle you,
Or you don't eat or something. Who knows?
Well, you won't, if you can't buy or sell, how are you going to go to the grocery store? You're going to have to live in the woods or run. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that it's written, and it's a virus. It's going to come to a fruition, and that may be how the world is reduced in population.
Ken, we're going to take a full hour of phone calls with you in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Those of you who are on hold, do not hang up. You'll lose your place in line, so I'll get right to you. You'll be the first ones we grab next hour, as well as the other calls. I'm George Norrie, back in a moment with Ken Klein on Coast to Coast AM.